emptied of power? Do we hold a gospel that is emptied of power? Paul tells us it's possible to be done doing this in our lives. I'm Pastor John from Living Stones and Sunland, Tujunga Seventh-day Adventist Churches, and let's get on the road for the call to prayer. I hope all of you are doing very well today. I have the next message here, but I'm going to skip forward in Corinthians to chapter 2, and then we will go back. I promised I would talk about Gnosticism, and I'm not going to do that tonight just yet. You still got to understand a couple things. We've got Gnosticism, and I know that some of you say, what in the world, I don't care about Gnosticism, but you know what? You will find that actually Gnosticism exists today, right here in Los Angeles, and it is a powerful backpack that is on the back of not only Christianity, but most thought processes in our country. So we do need to deal with this so that we can understand what God has for us today. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, we continue. And so it was with me, my brothers and sisters, when I came to you. Read with me, 1 Corinthians chapter 2. When I came to you, I did not come with eloquence or human wisdom. Oh, eloquence. We pastors know about eloquence, don't we? How can we communicate to the world if we don't do it in a way that they understand? Of course, eloquence. But And this did not mean, Paul saying this did not mean that he was not eloquent. Oh, he was. But this was not the point. He didn't come with eloquence. You know about this. You have probably gone to school and you have written a paper for a teacher. And when you wrote the paper for the teacher, you weren't quite sure what you wanted to say. You kind of didn't know what that teacher was asking for. But you learned how to write a lot of words on the sheet to kind of make the teacher dizzy. Now, I'm sorry, I know I am saying something out loud that some of you probably don't want to think that you maybe have done. I know I have done this in the past. Until I get to a subject I truly understand. But sometimes, you know how it is. You can start to just flamboyantly kind of, there are words that I could use, but I probably won't use those. But you can expound the words and make them hot air. Kind of like a political speech. You know how these politicians speak in the State of the Union. And you find that if you actually take the words of the State of the Union, oftentimes the things the president says in the beginning, like 10 minutes in, totally disagree with the words he says 40 minutes in. It's all a bunch of, words. You put enough hot air in the room, everyone gets dizzy and they don't really think about it. So they just kind of say whatever you want. I know. I've been on those committees at the conference. I know I've been on some of those committees at local churches where sometimes this happens. I'm not saying that it always happens, of course, but practical. Halls of Congress. People like eloquence. If you say it, Mary had a little lamb and his hair was white as snow. Okay, great. Those are just words. Mary had a little lamb and the hair was white as snow. See, you can take the same words and eloquently say them, and they sound so good that you don't think about what it's saying. It's only about Mary with a little lamb, right? This is what Paul's talking about. He did not come with eloquent words to try to sway everyone, but he came with power. Sometimes we empty the power of the gospel from its origins so that we ourselves may receive power, because Gnostics are into power control, human power, oppression over others. Did not come to you with eloquence and human wisdom, as I proclaim to you the testimony about God. For I resolved to know nothing. You read that? Verse 2. I resolved myself to know nothing. The word for know here being used is gno, gno, G-N-O-W, I guess you would say. Gno. We get the word to know from Gnostic. No, that's why our no in English is K-N-O-W. You ever wonder why the kno? You always wonder when you're first learning English, why is that K there? No, it comes from the word that's Greek, Gnosticism. G-N-O-W. No. Greek is very prominent inside of all languages of this world. And so I desired to know nothing, Gnostic. I wasn't going to tell everyone I'm awesome. I'm not going to know anything except the cross of Christ. That's where I find true wisdom and knowledge and power. Let's continue to read. I resolved to know nothing except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. I have here something I got when I was in college. I believe I got it in a church, maybe my sophomore year, or maybe even my junior year in college. The crucifix. And some people say, oh, that's not good to have a crucifix. Actually, I don't worship this, but it reminds me of Jesus who is crucified for us. He died so that we may have life. The power of God is given through the vision, mental vision of Jesus and Him crucified. It's given through the knowledge and wisdom that comes from the Word of God. If we forget how our church doesn't have power, how our world and our lives don't have power without the cross of Christ, we will be fools. The opposite of someone who knows. Someone who thinks they know. A fool is not just someone that isn't smart. A fool is someone who could know what is right, but decides not to. In fact, Albert Einstein talked about this. Insanity, he said, was doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, in the book of Proverbs, that would be called a fool. The fool doesn't see his problems. And you see governments are like this. They make decisions that don't work. So then they double down on the very same decision they always did. Our conference sometimes does that. So we got into a problem, now we finally got out, and then we decide to do the very same things sometimes as human beings that got us into the problem in the first place. Our churches do this. Our governments do this. Our people do it. And in people's lives they do it. There are so many of us that could change our lives in the immorality of our lives that hurt us, and then after we get better, we forget and go right back to the same thing that always was. That's the fool. But he says that for knowing the cross is the knowledge, for I testify to know nothing except, I resolved to know nothing except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. I came to you in weakness, with great fear and trembling. My message and my preaching were not wise and persuasive words, but demonstrated by the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, rather on God's power. Human wisdom. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, versus God's power that changes things in this world. I want you to go backwards for a second to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Verse 18, for the message of the cross is foolishness for those who are perishing. But to those of us being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom. I will destroy the wisdom, gnosis. I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and the intelligence of the intelligent. I will frustrate. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through his wisdom did not know him. Even though they were wise, they did not know him. This is a powerful thing. I love science. I love science. But science cannot fully lead you to God. You can see how God created things. You can see how his workings are throughout this world. But without God, evolution reigns. Because, I mean, let's face it. If you believe this world came about and there is no God, there's no other option. It has to be that we just evolved. It's just that simple. There's no creation, because if you don't believe in God, what other option have you? For we're here, how did we get here? Well, it must have been billions and billions of years. You know, of course they say that because the further out you get, the more you can make stuff up, you know. If something doesn't make sense in the evolution, you say, well, just tack on another 100 million years. And all of a sudden, yeah, it works. Oh, sure. In 100 million years, probably something happened, right? I mean, after all of human history is only about 5,000 years. I mean, that you see in the historical books. I mean, actual historical books. I'm not talking about what the scientists say it was. I'm talking about actual written human history is only about 5,000 years old. So let's continue on here. So, and by the way, it's coming to time, so I need to remember that. Why did I talk about evolution? That's why. Wisdom that comes from this earth, from humanity, is only as wise as the one who promotes it. My friends in Los Angeles, we are Gnostics. We believe that our knowledge is everything. We generally believe that we know the way, even though we in California do the same things over and over and over again. Same things, expecting a different result. Paul says you need Jesus. Acts chapter 18, 9. Which is when Paul was in Corinth, this place that's much like Los Angeles, like a trade city with all the oceans on this side and transferring things here and there. The ports are a big deal to Los Angeles, and therefore then Hollywood becomes a big deal. If there were no ports in Los Angeles, I think a lot would change. If we were in the middle of the United States, same place of California, it wouldn't have the success it does today. But it's that interconnection of all the different cultures together. Verse 9, one night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision. Do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent, for I am with you. And no one is going to attack or harm you, because I have many people in this city. God wanted the work. When Paul started to see Corinthians and the Gnostics and the difficulties and the problems, you can tell he was kind of sick and tired of it. I've been at churches like that where you're beating against the wall. It seems like nothing's going anywhere. Your leadership team is too busy, concerned about people looking at them instead of looking at God or doing things that God would want. I know. I felt it. But God says in a vision, I love these people. Even if they think they're so great, and that diminishes their ability to do anything for God, I love these people. Don't empty the cross of its power. Jesus died for them. Work to bring them to newness of Jesus. 7:15, time to move. I'm going to have intercession in a few moments. I'll see you soon.